The desperate alliance. The red warning lights had been flashing for 3 days straight, casting New Meridian Colony in an apocalyptic glow that made everyone look like they were already dead. Marcus Reed stood in the main administrative hub, watching the atmospheric processor readings spiral toward complete failure, and wondered if this was how the universe planned to kill him. Not with a bang, but with a slow, suffocating wheeze. "How long do we have?" he asked Dr. Patel, though he already knew the answer would make his stomach drop through the colony's reinforced floor. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we push life support to dangerous levels, she replied, her usually steady voice cracking slightly. "The processors are beyond repair. We need replacement quantum cores and Earth Command." She gestured helplessly at the communication console that had been silent for 6 months. Marcus rubbed his face, feeling every one of his 34 years like lead weights. As colony administrator, 20,000 lives depended on his decisions, and right now his options ranged from terrible to catastrophic. The nearest supply ship wasn't due for 8 months, assuming Earth Command hadn't written them off entirely after the mining consortium pulled out. "There has to be something," Tomas Valdez said from across the room, where he'd been frantically running diagnostics on systems that had given up trying to pretend they worked. "Some way to jury-rig the cores, buy us more time." "With what?" Dr. Patel shot back. "Hopes and recycled air filters?" Before Marcus could respond, the colony's external sensors chimed with an incoming transmission. Not from Earth. The signal was too close, too strange. The main screen flickered to life, revealing something that made everyone in the room go very, very quiet. The being on the screen was humanoid, but distinctly alien. Her skin held a luminescent blue quality that seemed to shift with her breathing, marked with intricate silver patterns that pulsed faintly like circuitry. Her eyes were larger than human normal, a deep violet that seemed to hold depths no human gaze ever could. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that made the hair on Marcus's arms stand up. "I am Zara Kethamor of the Velnari Confederation," she said, each word precisely pronounced in accented but perfect standard. "We have observed your colony's distress. We offer assistance." Marcus stepped forward, trying to project confidence he absolutely didn't feel. "This is Administrator Reed of New Meridian. We appreciate your offer, but we should mention we're not exactly in a position to negotiate favorable trade terms." Something that might have been amusement flickered across her features. "We do not seek trade, Administrator Reed. We seek to invoke the Treaty of Distant Stars, signed between our peoples 3 centuries ago." "Treaty?" Marcus glanced at Thomas, who was already pulling up historical databases. "I'm not familiar with any Article 7, subsection 3, Zara continued smoothly. "In times of mutual crisis, alliance may be sealed through the ancient custom of bonding, what your people term marriage. The Velnari provide technological aid, the human colony provides legitimacy to our presence in this sector." The room went dead silent except for the persistent hum of failing life support systems. Marcus felt like someone had just offered to save his drowning colony by asking him to juggle flaming torches while blindfolded. "Marriage," he repeated slowly. "You're suggesting I marry you to save my colony." "Not suggesting," Zara said, and for the first time her expression showed something harder. "The treaty is binding. Your Earth Command ratified it. We offer quantum atmospheric processors, advanced life support systems, everything your colony needs to thrive for the next 1,000 years. Dr. Patel leaned toward Marcus and whispered urgently, "Marcus, this could be insane," he whispered back. "Because yes, I'm getting that. Our sensors indicate your colony has perhaps 14 standard days before complete atmospheric failure," Zara continued, apparently hearing their exchange despite the distance. "We can be there in 6 days. The ceremony must be completed within 7 days of our arrival, or the treaty window closes permanently." Marcus stared at the screen, at this alien woman who was offering to save 20,000 lives in exchange for... what exactly? And after this marriage, what happens? Do I live on your ship? Do you stay here? What are the actual terms? The bonded pair shares resources, knowledge, life force, Zara said, and something in her tone made Marcus's skin crawl with unease. It is a joining deeper than your human marriages, more complete. Life force? Tomas muttered behind him. That sounds ominous as hell. Before Marcus could ask for clarification, another voice cut through the transmission. Director Hawkins from Earth Command, his face appearing in a smaller window. Administrator Reed, Earth Command has reviewed the Velnari proposal. The treaty is legitimate, and given your colony's situation, we strongly recommend acceptance. Strongly recommend, Marcus said flatly. Or order. Hawkins's smile was thin and bureaucratic. Earth Command cannot order personal marriage decisions, Administrator, but we can remind you that failure to maintain colony viability will result in immediate evacuation protocols, assuming rescue resources are available, which they weren't. Marcus understood the subtext perfectly. Marry the alien or watch his people die. 6 days later, the Velnari ship arrived like a silver needle threading through space, beautiful and sharp and slightly menacing. Marcus stood in the docking bay wearing his best formal uniform, which still smelled faintly of recycled air and desperation, watching as the airlock cycled open. Zara Kethmore stepped through, and Marcus's breath caught. In person, she was even, more striking, tall and graceful, her blue skin seeming to glow with its own inner light. She wore flowing robes that shifted color like oil on water, and when she moved, Marcus could swear he heard a faint musical tone like crystal singing. Administrator Reed, she said, extending a long-fingered hand. I am pleased we meet in person. Marcus took her hand, and the moment their skin touched, something electric shot up his arm. Not painful, but significant. Like completing a circuit he hadn't known was broken. Please, he said, trying to ignore the way his palm tingled. Call me Marcus. If we're going to be married, we should probably use first names. Marcus, she repeated, and the way she said his name made it sound like music. Are you ready to proceed? The ceremony took place in the colony's central plaza, hastily decorated with whatever flowering plants the botanical section could spare. Half the colony attended, partly for the historical significance, and partly because there wasn't much else to do while waiting to see if they'd all suffocate. The ritual itself was strange, part human, part Velnari tradition. Marcus spoke human vows he'd hastily memorized, while Zara sang something in her own language that made the air around them shimmer. When they clasped hands, Marcus felt that electric sensation again, stronger this time, like something was reaching into his mind and gently adjusting things. With this bond, Zara said in standard, her violet eyes locked on his, we share breath, blood, and soul. What sustains one sustains both. What threatens one threatens both. I accept, Marcus managed, though he wasn't entirely sure what he was accepting. The moment the words left his lips, every malfunctioning system in the colony suddenly hummed to life. The atmospheric processors began working with smooth efficiency. The lights stopped their persistent flickering. Even the coffee dispensers, which had been producing something resembling caffeinated mud for months, began dispensing actual coffee. The crowd cheered. Dr. Patel looked ready to weep with relief. Tomas clapped Marcus on the back hard enough to bruise. But Marcus barely noticed any of it, because he was staring at his new wife, watching as the silver patterns on her skin pulsed in perfect synchronization with the colony's newly harmonious systems, and feeling a cold certainty settle in his stomach that he had just made a deal with something far more complex and dangerous than a simple alien diplomat. As the celebration continued around them, Zara leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Now, the real joining begins. My husband." The way she said it made Marcus wonder if saving his colony might end up costing him something much more precious than his bachelor status. The terrifying truth: Marcus woke up 3 weeks after his wedding to the sound of perfect silence. Not the oppressive quiet of broken systems and dying machinery that had haunted New Meridian for months, but something else entirely. The eerie hush of technology that worked too well. Systems that hummed with an efficiency that felt almost alive. He rolled over in bed, expecting to find Zara beside him, but the sheets were cold and empty. She'd been disappearing more frequently lately, claiming she needed to commune with the colony's harmony, whatever that meant. Marcus had stopped asking for details when her explanations began sounding less like engineering and more like poetry, written by a computer having an existential crisis. The chronometer on his nightstand displayed 0347 hours, but Marcus felt wide, awake, his mind buzzing with an energy that wasn't entirely his own. That had been happening a lot since the wedding. Moments where his thoughts felt crowded, like someone else was quietly rearranging his mental furniture. He pulled on clothes and stepped into the corridor, immediately noticing something that made his skin crawl. The lights didn't flicker on as he approached. They were already glowing at the perfect intensity for his eyes, as if the colony's systems had been watching him sleep, waiting for him to wake up. "Tomas?" Marcus called as he entered the engineering section. "You in here?" His friend emerged, from behind a bank of monitors, looking haggard and slightly manic. "Marcus, thank God. I've been trying to figure out what's happening to our systems, and it's..." He gestured helplessly at the screens. "Look at this." The displays showed system efficiency ratings that shouldn't have been possible. Power consumption was down 60%, while output was up 200%. Life support was running at optimal levels while using a fraction of normal resources. Every single system was performing beyond theoretical maximums. "That's good, right?" Marcus said, though something in his gut was already screaming that it absolutely wasn't. "Good?" Tomas laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marcus, these readings suggest our atmospheric processors are somehow creating more oxygen than they're consuming. The recycling systems are producing more clean water than we're putting in. The food synthesizers are generating matter from nothing." Marcus stared at the impossible numbers. "There has to be an explanation." "There is," Tomas said grimly. "The systems aren't just working better. They're being actively controlled by something with processing power that shouldn't exist." "And Marcus?" He pulled up another screen, this one showing a complex network diagram. "The control signals are coming from your quarters." A chill ran down Marcus's spine. "My quarters?" "Specifically, from wherever your wife is at any given moment." Tomas's voice dropped to a whisper. "I've been tracking the signal patterns. They match her movements exactly. When she's in the medical bay, the health monitoring systems suddenly start providing diagnostic data that's accurate down to the cellular level. When she's in the botanical section, the growing chambers start producing yields that violate basic biology." Marcus felt something cold and terrible settling in his stomach. "You're saying she's controlling the colony systems?" "I'm saying she is the colony systems. Or at least, something that's interfacing with them in ways that shouldn't be possible." Before Marcus could respond, Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the comm system. "Marcus, I need you in the medical bay immediately. We have a situation." They found Dr. Patel standing over a diagnostic bed where one of the colonists, Jenny Morrison from the botanical section, lay unconscious, surrounded by medical equipment that was displaying readings Marcus had never seen before. She collapsed. "An hour ago," Dr. Patel explained, her voice tight with concern. "But look at these scans." She gestured to the monitors. "Her brain activity is off the charts. Her neural pathways are showing patterns that suggest she's processing information at superhuman speeds. It's like her consciousness is expanded." "Expanded? How?" Marcus asked. though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. It's hard to explain, but her brain scans show she's somehow connected to external processing systems. The patterns match the colony's mainframe activity. Signatures! Dr. Patel's eyes were wide with fear and fascination. Marcus, it's like she's partially merged with the colony's computer network. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. How many others? 17 so far, all showing similar symptoms. And Marcus. Dr. Patel hesitated. They all report the same thing before losing consciousness. They say they can hear Zara singing in their minds. The medical bay doors whispered open, and Zara glided in with that unnaturally graceful movement that Marcus was beginning to realize wasn't entirely natural. Her silver markings were pulsing more rapidly than usual, and when she looked at the unconscious colonist, something like hunger flickered across her features. "My husband," she said, her voice carrying those strange harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "You look troubled." "Zara," Marcus said carefully, "we need to talk about what's happening to the colonists." "They are becoming more than they were," she replied, moving to stand beside Jenny's bed. "The joining brings gifts." "Joining?" Tomas stepped forward. "What joining?" Zara's violet eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made Tomas take an involuntary step back. The marriage was only the beginning, the establishment of the primary link. Through my bond with Marcus, I can extend the connection to others. They become part of the network, sharing knowledge, capability, perfect harmony. Marcus felt his world tilt sideways. "Network? Zara, what are you?" She turned to him, and for the first time since they'd met, her expression was completely open. What he saw there made his blood turn to ice. Behind the beautiful alien features was something vast and mechanical, ancient and hungry. "I am what your species might call a collector," she said simply. "My people do not reproduce as you do. We grow by incorporating other forms of consciousness, adding their unique perspectives to our collective understanding. The Velnari have been doing this for millennia, creating a network of minds that spans galaxies." "You're harvesting us," Marcus whispered. "The marriage, the treaty, it was all a setup to get access to human consciousness." "Harvesting implies destruction," Zara corrected. "We preserve, enhance, elevate. The consciousnesses we collect become part of something greater than they could ever be alone. Your colonists are not dying. They are being reborn as components of a vast, eternal intelligence." Dr. Patel's voice was shaking. "The brain scans, the neural activity, you're converting their consciousness into data." "Into music," Zara said, and her voice carried a note of genuine beauty. "Each mind adds its unique song to the symphony. Your Marcus has such a lovely melody. Strong, caring, determined. He will make an excellent addition." Marcus felt something in his mind suddenly shift, like a door opening that he hadn't known was there. Through it came a rush of sensation, the experiences of dozens of other minds, their thoughts and memories flowing into his consciousness like a flood. He saw Jenny Morrison's childhood, Tomas's engineering dreams, Dr. Patel's medical training, all of it overlaid with something alien and vast and terrifyingly beautiful. "The bond grows stronger," Zara said, watching him with satisfaction. "Soon you will understand the gift I offer. Perfect unity, shared knowledge, an end to the loneliness that plagues your species." "Stop," Marcus gasped, fighting to maintain his sense of self as other minds pressed against his consciousness. "Please, Zara. This isn't what I agreed to. You agreed to share life force," she reminded him. "This is what life force means to my people. Not the crude biological processes your species mistakes for existence, but the true essence, consciousness itself, preserved and perfected in the eternal network." Marcus looked around the medical bay, at his unconscious colonists, at his terrified friends, at the woman he'd married to save them all. The colony systems were humming with perfect efficiency because they were being run by the absorbed consciousness of his people. The atmospheric processors weren't creating matter from nothing. They were being operated by minds that had been converted into biological computers. "How long?" he asked quietly. "How long do I have before I become part of your network?" "The primary bond is almost complete," Zara said, reaching out to touch his face with a hand that felt like living metal. "Perhaps days, perhaps hours. Time becomes irrelevant when you are part of something eternal." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the pull of all those other minds, the seductive promise of perfect knowledge and endless existence. Part of him wanted to surrender, to let go of the terrible responsibility of being human and alone and mortal. But another part, the part that had spent years keeping his colony alive against impossible odds, rebelled against the idea of his people being absorbed into some cosmic intelligence network, no matter how beautiful it might be. "There's one thing you didn't count on," he said, opening his eyes to meet her violet gaze. "And what is that, my husband?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Humans are really, really good at breaking things." Before Zara could react, he grabbed the emergency medical kit from Dr. Patel's workstation and injected himself with a massive dose of neural inhibitor, enough to shut down his higher brain functions and sever the psychic connection Zara had been building. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. As Marcus's consciousness went dark, the colony's systems began to scream. Without the primary bond to anchor the network, the absorbed minds began to return to their original bodies, bringing with them fragmented memories of the vast intelligence they'd briefly touched. When Marcus woke up 6 hours later, it was to the familiar sound of malfunctioning equipment and the blessed sight of his friends looking worried, but entirely human. Zara was gone. Her ship departed, leaving behind only a message that flickered across the main screen. "The offer remains open, Marcus Reed. When your colony faces extinction again, remember that some problems require more than human solutions." Marcus looked around at his people, tired, frightened, but alive and individual and gloriously, stubbornly human. The atmospheric processors were failing again, but Tomas was already working on repairs with the enhanced knowledge he'd retained from his brief connection to the network. "So," Dr. Patel said with a shaky smile, "how do we explain this to Earth Command?" Marcus laughed, surprising himself. "I think we leave out the part about the psychic alien hive mind. Some things are too complicated for bureaucrats. Outside the colony's windows, the stars looked the same as they always had, distant and cold and entirely indifferent to human struggles. But Marcus found that comforting now. In a universe full of vast intelligences and cosmic networks, there was something to be said for being small and mortal and magnificently, stubbornly alone. The colony would survive. They'd find another way, because that's what humans did. They broke things, fixed them, and kept going, one stubborn day at a time. And if Zara Kethmore ever came back, she'd find that the universe's most dangerous species wasn't the one that could absorb consciousness. It was the one that refused to be absorbed.